All right, everyone, we're back for the second part of week 14's instructions. Where we left off, we were talking just about some things to double check, update, and to review before submitting your final version of your paper portfolio this week. So I left before we had a chance to really dig into this idea of indirect quotations. And like I said, this is something that a lot of you are choosing to do in your paper, which is fine. We just want to make sure that we're doing this correctly, okay? So in the little notes that I've made, I want you to think about going back to Choi's article, because hers is an article that a lot of us are using because she just has some good information, good quotes, and one of our paper topics was specifically about her work. But what we want to think about is the fact that she is drawing from other experts and other people. She's using quotes from those people to help support her own ideas. So this is something that we do with our own writing, right? We, instead of just relying on our own thoughts and ideas, we go to other people to help support our arguments and the things that we're stating in our paper. So this is part of academic writing and using research. Choi's article shows that it can be done very well and effectively, and that using the input and the quotes from other people can help solidify those ideas. But what that means is that her article includes a lot of quotes from other people, right? So I want you to think about the text that she writes, you know, the article, those are all her words, and those are all things that we use quotations for and then give her credit, right? We put Choi at the end of a quote from her. But what happens if we want to quote a quote somebody that she has in fact quoted in her own text? I'm using this like quoting. Let me show you, okay? So in her article, to give you an example, this is the first page. She has here notes Jennifer 8 Lee. Okay, so we know Jennifer 8 Lee, we know that person. And then we get into where Choi has used quotation marks, right? And she has given credit because she says, note Jennifer 8 Lee. What you want to cook and eat is an accumulation, a function of your experiences, the people you've dated, what you've learned. It's an extensive quote, and some of you have used part of it, which is absolutely fine. We just want to make sure we're doing this correctly, right? So we need to not only note in somehow in our work that this comes from Choi's article, but these are not Choi's words, they're actually Lee's words. How do you do that? How does MLA ask you to do that? Well, that's where this idea of indirect quotations comes in, okay? So we want to make sure that we're giving credit to both Lee and to Choi. So, you know, here's the quote, right? I'm just taking, you know, a small version of a shorter version of it. So I said, again, you not only need to reference the original author, but the person whose words you are using, right? So in that sense, we need to differentiate between Choi as the overall author of the article and Lee as the person who actually said those quoted words, okay? And I put here, what you place in parentheses has to match what appears in the work cited. So that's always how it should be. When you put somebody's last name or somebody's information in parentheses, it should match the first thing you see in the work cited. So if you're quoting Choi's actual words, her own words, you put Choi in parentheses after the quotation mark, and then if I scroll down to the work cited, the very first thing I will see in an entry for Choi is her last name. So what is in the parentheses matches what's at the end in the work cited, okay? Let me show you instead of just telling you, okay? So I'm going to scroll down. So here we have two options, right? Jennifer 8 Lee notes that, quote, what you want to cook and eat is an accumulation, a function of your experiences, okay? So I've given credit to Lee because those are her words. I'm quoting them, but I'm also putting QTD in Choi in those parentheses, which means quoted in Choi. So this makes me, as somebody who understands MLA, I go, okay, so Choi is the author of the original article, and Choi is using Jennifer 8 Lee's words. Okay, another way you can do that is just use the quote, what you want to cook and eat is an accumulation, a function of your experiences, and then put Lee, so giving credit to whose words these are, quoted in Choi. Okay, so again, both of these note that these are quoted in Choi, so that if I scroll down to a works cited page, right, which of course the title needs to be right at the very top, do better than me, y'all. Choi is the first thing that appears in the citation. So this is how, this should match what in the parentheses appears above, right? And then we have the title of the article with every first letter of every word capitalized, except for from. We don't need to capitalize prepositions or some of those conjunctions, things like that, even though it's not something that happens in the original. So if we look at the original article, not everything is capitalized, but MLA wants us to do that. So I noted this for a couple of you as well. The overall publication is italicized, just like the New York Times would be italicized. Some of you use the Atlantic. Some of you are using McKinney Madalena, and so she was published in writing spaces. That is italicized. Okay, we used quotation marks around article titles and then italics for the larger publication in which those articles appear. Same as book chapters. If we had the chapter of a book in quotation marks here, then the overall text title would be italicized. Okay, we have the date of publication and then the date we accessed it, which in fact is I'm the one who accessed it, so I have given you the date right here, but I also gave you the citation. So we always need access dates for electronic sources because, as I mentioned to some of you in our consultations, electronic sources and articles can always be edited and updated. So we want to know what version, what date you looked at the actual work in case it has been changed. Okay, so we want the date of access for those kinds of things. Videos, you don't need to put a date of access necessarily because they don't typically go in and edit videos. It's more just the articles and things that appear electronically. Okay, so that's indirect quotations. Some of you cited Barber from Choi's article or Richard Wilk, who was another person that Choi referenced. So you need to make sure you're distinguishing between the person whose words you were using and the person whose article in which those words appear. So indirect quotations. Okay, so I'm also going to show you, if we go to, let's see, MLA, the works cited area, or I'm sorry, the Purdue OWL site, they have a sample paper that also has a works cited there, and it also has little notes about what to do and where to go, when it comes to formatting your paper. But also there's a whole section on citing indirect sources if you just need another example or explanation. I'm going to scroll up. So all of this, citing the Bible, citing authors with the same last names, should you ever run across any of this kind of, these kinds of examples in your academic writing, it's in in-text citations, the basics over here. Okay, so just some things that we want to kind of address for your paper portfolio before you submit that work. Okay, I also want to talk to you a little bit about some other things that are in the works, one of them being extra credit. So I don't drop the lowest grade, I don't do any of that stuff, but I typically try to offer not only the revise and resubmit folder in D2L, which some of you have taken advantage of, but also a few opportunities for extra credit. So I have posted on D2L this list of different events that are going to be available from, say, the Houston Library, also through our Teaching and Learning Center. So I've put the dates and the times and also the link to register. So I've tried to cover different, there's a Christmas Carol radio play, different times during the days, and some of them are on weekends, to just make sure that everybody, if you wanted to attend at least one, you were able to do that. So I've offered this list. And then for each, for extra credit, you can attend up to 3 events. Okay, each of those events can be up to 5 points. If you've done everything correctly, you can earn up to 5 points. So you can earn 5 points or up to 15 because you can attend up to 3 of those, 3 only, no more than 3. I don't want you taking time away from your other studies and things to do this. 3 is enough, and 15 points is quite a bit in our class. Okay, so you just need to answer this event summary as thoroughly as possible. So, and y'all, it's a writing class, so you need to revise and edit, and you need to answer and complete sentences, and it's just asking you about the event, who organized it, how many people attended virtually, what was the purpose, and then some more specific questions about that. You can then, that's just for one, upload that document in the assignments area of D2L, so you can submit up to 3 of those documents on D2L. Okay, so I'm going to pull up what our weekly area, our module looks like. So you have the instructional video, you have the area to go to in assignments for the final paper submission. Please, y'all, make sure you're submitting in the right format. I'm not hunting anybody down anymore if it's not submitted in .doc, .docx, or .pdf format, so please double check that. There's also an area to submit your multimedia plan. Please review the requirements and the video, right? And then complete this form. This is the multimedia plan. Let me open it. And so it just asks you to consider, what it is you're doing, to provide some sort of example, give me an idea of what you're working on, and then start the drafts of paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. Remember, y'all, paragraph 2 is where people always lose points, always. I'm not saying every single person loses points, but I'm saying when points are lost for the overall multimedia project, it's because of paragraph 2, usually because it's just not thorough enough. So starting that draft now is going to be very helpful, and then I can give you some feedback, okay? All right, so we have the multimedia project plan, and then this is where you can go for the extra credit events. And I put the event summary, right? And then the actual list of those events. Additionally, you haven't seen it yet because I haven't completed it, but I will. You do have a participation quiz for this week, which is 10 points, right? And asks you some specific questions from not only this video, but the last video, just to make sure that you have all the information you need to have a really, truly successful week and getting all of that work completed and submitted. Okay, if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to me, but I also want to note that I am going to be offering just a few consultation times, and this is for people who didn't initially meet me for consultation. So don't make a consultation appointment if you and I have already spoken. But if you go into the WebEx area of D2L, remember, this is what it looks like because, it's D2L and it's the worst sometimes, and it's WebEx. You need to make sure that you have selected appointment booking, okay? And then it's just easier to look at the week area. So I want you to know that the only times that I have available are a few options between 12 and 2 with a break in between. So 12 and 2 p.m. Central, right? And then 4 to 6 p.m. Central, and that's on Tuesday, okay? So 12 to 2 and 4 to 6, and those are in 20-minute blocks, just like our original consultations. If you are not seeing those times, your time zone is not set up properly. You need to double check the time zone, and that's by going to the bottom area here, clicking time zone, and making sure this is yours. America, Chicago, that's Central Time, right? You don't need to select anything here. This, again, is only for people who weren't able to meet with me originally, you're not going to get full credit for this, but it is an opportunity for us to talk about your feedback, okay? And those of you, if you've already met with me and you have additional questions, you can always email me. If we need to set up another time to talk, we can certainly do that. All right, y'all, hopefully you have most of the work done, taking care of those revisions, and now it's just moving into your multimedia project plan. But regardless of where you are, have a good week. Try to get that stuff submitted early so that you can really step back from your computer, take a break, kind of hit the reset button before we're getting into just the final push. We're almost there. All right, y'all, have a good week and take care.